Hey guys, welcome to week 8. This week's top score and biggest blowout come on the strength of Pope 2.0's Pew Pew's thumping of Jason's Uratowel 145.7 to 59.4, an 86.3 point margin of victory. Man, what a solid week of scoring from the Pew Pews. You had 7 players score between 22 and 16 points, led by Gio Bernard and Justin Herbert with 21.3, Travis Kelce with 20.9, Keenan Allen with 17.2, and the 16-point trio of Tyler Boyd, Cooper Kupp, and Ryan Suckup. The weak spots in your team this week were Todd Gurley's 10.6 and Chicago's defense with 4.5 points. That's literally your entire team that we just talked about. You just bludgeoned Jay Money to death. For Jay, you got 12.5 points from Josh Allen, 11.8 from Myles Gaskin, and 10.7 from Chase Claypool. T.Y. Hilton continues to ride the struggle bus. This week it's only 1.9 points with 2 catches for 9 yards. How far the mighty have fallen. It seems like he's getting the Keenan Allen treatment that Phil Rivers tended to give Allen when they played together for the Chargers. Speaking of terrible Chargers, Joshua Kelly gave you 3 points in your flex spot with 32 rushing yards and -7 receiving yards on 1 catch. Not great.
I had no idea.
Joe Burrow was the best man on the roster, putting up 18.9 points from the bench. Week 8's closest game was Nick's T-Boys to Men holding off Derek's 127.8 to 127.5, a 0.3 of a point victory. Nick does like to live dangerously, as this is his second win by less than half of a point this season, out of 5 total wins at this point. You did benefit from the Green Bay run defense being made of Swiss cheese, with Delvin Cook setting a new high mark for the season in terms of points in a single game with 50.6 points. 50.6 points from one dude, and you still only managed to win by 0.3 of a point.
It's the small victories that keep you going.
You also got 20.2 from Julio Jones and 13.2 from Jared Goff. You did leave DJ Dallas's 20.3 points on your bench, which would have been a decent improvement over Robbie Anderson's 7.3 points in your flex spot. Derek had his own monster game to keep pace with Nick, getting 37.1 points from DK Metcalf, as well as 21.1 from Pittsburgh's defense. J.K. Dobbins, who I finally decided to cut, promptly got made into the starter after Mark Ingram injury, and he put up 15.6 points in flex. You did only get 1.9 points from Henry Ruggs III and an absolute killer of 2 points from Dallas Goedert. His 2-point game when you only needed 2.5 points on Sunday night was not what you were looking for, especially considering he ran route on 84% of the Eagles' passing plays. You only had a single player on the bench that scored this week, with Damian Harris putting up 19.2 points in the New England-Buffalo game. He could have been an improvement over all 3 of your starting running backs of Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Swift, and J.K. Dobbins. With the win, Nick gets a 6-pack of beer from Derek and a wager that they had on the board this week. Brandon's blown call defeats Drew's limp CMC by a score of 122.4 to 97.3. Patrick Mahomes led all players in scoring in this matchup, putting up 39.6 points for Brandon. Justin Jackson, Mike Evans, James Conner, and Stephon Diggs all scored between 12 and 16 points for you as well. You also had 3 players on your bench who scored between 15 and 19 points, which would have been an improvement over all those other 4 players. The gains would have been minimal and not enough to get you up to the top score overall. Drew, you were led in scoring by 23.8 points from Tyreek Hill, 20.1 from Zach Moss, and 19.1 from Brandon Ayuk. The San Francisco defense was quite the letdown against Seattle, putting up a negative. Matt Prater wasn't a ton of help either. His 2 points on 3 PATs and a missed 40 to 49-yard field goal. Prater's been Mr. Inconsistent so far this year, having 4 double-digit games this season accompanied by 3 games of 3 points or less. Chris's 2 men in a defense took down Josh's sober draft 111.5 to 69.7. Chris got 28.7 points from Russell Wilson, 20.8 from Alvin Kamara, 15.7 from Greg Zuerlein, 14.7 from Gus Edwards, and 10.8 from Kansas City's defense. You did have a weak game from wide receiver 2, Justin Jefferson with 4.1 points, running back 2, Clyde Edwards-Helaire with 4.6 points, and tight end Jonnu Smith with 3.9. Didn't really matter this week, but it probably would have been nice to get the 25.8 points that Corey Davis scored on your lineup rather than sitting on your bench. For Josh, the strong start at 4-1 seems to be fading now, having lost 3 straight to fall to an even 4-4. This week, the team was led by the Indianapolis defense's 19.3 points and 17.9 points from Matt Ryan. After that, things get pretty dicey, with Amari Cooper putting up 1 point in your flex spot and Tyler Higbee putting up 2.4 in your tight end position. Normally, you could survive that type of performance, but with no one other than Indy or Matt Ryan scoring more than 8 points, those 2 low performers hurt you even more. Juju Smith-Schuster's 10.2 points on your bench could have been useful, but other than that, you didn't really have anything to hang your hat on this week. In the Battle of Scots, Pope 1.0's Hey Buddy defeated my Running on Empty 107.1 to 84.4. Pope 1.0 was led by 25.8 points from the Philly defense, 20.2 from Derrick Henry, and a quad box of games from between 11 and 14 points from Derek Carr, T. Higgins, Jared Cook, and Younghoe Koo. Kenny Galladay's injury left you with a 0 spot at a starting wide receiver, but I was unable to take advantage of it. My team was led by 17.7 from Allen Robinson, 14.8 from Lamar Jackson, and 12.1 from Rob Gronkowski. My trade of A.J. Green for Antonio Brown didn't really work out for me this week, as A.J. Green only had 2 catches for 19 yards. I should have stuck with my original gut feeling of starting JaMycal Hasty instead of Green, but I wussed out. I did have my own injury to deal with, as Darrell Henderson put up 6.3 points in the first half before going out with a thigh injury. I could have made this closer by getting in Drew Brees instead of Jackson, Philip Lindsay instead of Melvin Gordon, and Hasty, but I still don't think it would have been enough to get me the win.
A note from the editor here, I had meant to mention that Scotty B and I had a bet on our matchup this week, and I lost, so I owe him a 6-pack. I had it in the first version of my recording, but part of it got deleted. I had to re-record it, and I dropped it in the second part of it, so that's still got to be thrown back in here.
Finally, Lee's The Bench Warmers grabs win number 2 on the season, knocking off Alex's Do I Say Deuce Out 93.4 to 69.1. Unfortunately, with the win, he still remains in 10th place, but he does move up 1 game on both Alex and Jason, who are now in the lead for the Deuce buys. The wide receiver combo of Devontae Adams and Robert Woods combined for 51.7 points to lead you to the win. You could have seen marginal improvements on your starting lineup by getting either Leonard Fournette or Evan Ingram into your flex spot or Scotty Miller. For Alex, the losing streak continues, now at 6 games. This week, you were led by Aaron Rodgers with 22.5 points and Robert Tonyan with 10.4. A week after Nelson Aguilar put up 19.7 points with 100 yards receiving, this week he gets shut out on just 2 targets. Jonathan Taylor's injury led to him only having 22 yards and a couple catches for 4.1 points. Michael Gallup has seen some shit on this year. I think he's on his 3rd fantasy team, but he's been mostly terrible, which is why you had him on your bench. Unfortunately for you, his 9.6 points was more than any of the 3 wide receivers that you opted to start actually did put up. It's Tuesday, as you can probably tell as I'm uploading this. There's no stats from Nick. He didn't have a chance to get to them today. So I need to fill out the end of the video with some stuff, because I have a certain timeline I need to hit to. Somehow over the last 4 weeks, every video that I've uploaded has been exactly 9 minutes and 34 seconds long. Not intentionally, but it's still fairly weird that it's all been exactly that long. One thing I wanted to get out there was to see if there's any interest in handling a week of videos for me. The first week in December, I'm going to be working overnight shifts in the warehouses for Colony. They're short-staffed this year during peak with COVID and all that kind of stuff. So Monday night through Friday morning, I'm going to be working overnight and then still trying to put in some hours at my normal day job. I don't foresee enough time that week to make videos. That would be the recap video for week 12, which runs from November 24th to November 30th, which would need to be written and recorded sometime around December 1st or 2nd. There could be some spicy matchups in terms of final seeding in there for that week. It's going to be Pope versus Pope, both top 4 teams at the moment. Brandon versus Nick, and Derek versus Chris. If you're interested in giving it a shot, really you just need to write the script and record the video. I'll be happy to edit it and post it to YouTube for you. Good luck to everybody in Week 9. We've got the playoffs coming up in about a month, so we're going to start looking at playoff odds in next week's episode, if I can find the playoff calculator that I've used in the past.